Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Parkour Coach Companion. This is episode number 15 now. Moving through the numbers. Today, my guest is Andy from Germany. Andy Vogelsberg. Have I got that right?
Almost.
Almost. Okay. I'll get there. But thank you for coming on, Andy. I guess to quickly give people an introduction. Me and Andy have met very briefly through another friend of ours, Flynn Disney, who's been mentioned and featured here before on this channel. Flynn's running an online exploration group, which basically is looking at different principles within parkour and within parkour coaching, alongside a lot of other interesting things. And me and Andy are both on the course, which we're both enjoying at the moment, I think.
Definitely.
Very much so.
So we had a really good conversation about coaching in one of the webinars, and I thought, let's get Andy here to talk more about these topics. So really, I kind of thought that we could structure this podcast in the same way that a lesson kind of plays out. So we can talk about the start of a lesson, the warm-up. We can talk about class content. We can talk about class structure. We can talk about progressions and foundations, and also how to finish a class as well. So these are the sort of the ideas that I'm wanting to pick out from Andy today. If you are listening to this on Spotify, you can also watch this on YouTube, so you can see our lovely faces here. But also, if you're watching on YouTube, go over to Spotify if you want to listen hands-free, that sort of thing. So that's my ramble done. Andy, thank you for coming on. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you are at the moment, where you coach, who you coach, that sort of thing?
Sure. First of all, thanks, Sam, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So, as you said, I'm from Germany, little town down south, which you probably won't have heard of. It's pretty close to Munich, so you might have heard of Munich and Fam Jam back in the day. So that's kind of where I've been around the past couple of years. I've been training for roughly 13 years. I never understand how people know the date of their first training. I don't. So it must have been end of 2007 or starting of 2008. Somewhere around that time, and been coaching for maybe 9 to 10 years. So started like just a little opportunity to make some cash, basically, while studying, doing little workshops in schools, and then like little certifications and courses for teachers, which was already getting into the direction of talking about teaching or coaching. And then I got frustrated at university, so I stopped studying and decided to make coaching my day job. So yeah, there's actually a lot more to this. We build up like a sports club. I never know the the perfect English terminology for this. Well, we have like 400 members now, so it's growing rapidly actually. Built a parkour gym a couple of years ago. Since then it's been growing even more. On the other hand, I kind of got into teaching coaches. So it's like a little local, regional, maybe sometimes national, because we have people coming from northern Germany or Luxembourg once or twice. But really, it's local parkour organizations certifying their own coaches kind of thing. And we're trying to grow and providing quality. So, yeah, that's what I do basically. So doing classes at the local parkour club, teaching coaches on some of the weekends, and doing other workshops and stuff.
Nice. So you're in a position now where you're not just coaching students, you're actually coaching coaches.
Yeah. So I get to talk about this meta structure thing a lot. Not so much in English, but let's try.
Yeah, yeah. So we touched on it last night, and I was interested in what you're saying about warm-ups. So for coaches out there who are listening, who maybe don't really know what makes a good warm-up, I think it's easy to kind of just think you know what a good warm-up is, because you see that it's just the norm or just what people just do, like running around, some stretches, that sort of thing. What do you think is a good warm-up? How do you think is best to prepare students for a session?
I think the answer to this, like the most questions that we will be discussing is it depends. So you really need to ask yourself the question, what is a warm-up? Or what is it good for? And then you have the issue of how long is your class? Like how much time can you take to warm up or condition and all of that? And then you have the question, what do I want to teach this class? Or will we be playing tag, for example? So do you need to prepare joints for speed and impact? Or I don't know. You know how classes can go. You can do whatever you like. So figure out what you're going to do and prepare for that. So a principle from strength training maybe would be the thing that you're going to do or maxing out in is itself the warm-up. So if you're deadlifting, you don't need to do like 10 other exercises. You just start with very little weight and then go from there. That's the underlying principle, I would say, really. And then you try to look at what movements or exercises can you do that are the most efficient, so you don't waste time. Because like you said last night that you only have like 1 hour classes, which is almost no time at all, really. So you want to design your warm-ups in a very efficient kind of way.
And so could you give some examples of the things you've done as part of your warm-ups then, like with kids or with other students?
Sure. Well, as it's kind of my job, I tried many things, and I'm sure you're familiar with the frustration that comes with coaching, because you're trying to like design it in a way so it fits for everyone, basically, but it never does. So I've tried both extremes, from going very disciplined kind of warm-up to a very loose kind of thing. And when you have regular classes, you also have the privilege or the luxury maybe of being able to assume your students already know what they're supposed to do. So at one point you'll have the session, what is a pull-up and what is a push-up? What do you need to look out for? So you already taught them that. So if you're not able to do a pull-up, these are Australian pulls, or you can do the sloth kind of thing where you use your legs on a bar. Super nice for children because they can imitate animals and just pull. And yeah. So I did that kind of approach where I was like, okay, guys, give me 50 box jumps, 20 drops or something. Start slow or start little and then go higher. Then you do, I don't know, depends on the age and the ability really. Give me 30 push-ups, 10 pull-ups, and then you're good to go. Do whatever you want. And other approaches would be to warm up every body part. So a bit of locomotion stuff, the dreaded animal walks, which are maybe not the most efficient type of movement, but super, well, they're good for core strength and general coordination stuff. So I would do like I'm missing a word, not laps, but back and forth through the gym.
Yeah.
Just give me 2 rounds of animal walks, then you do the ostrich. Do you know the ostrich walk? We're like,
Not sure.
it's a ballistic stretching kind of method. We
Oh, okay, nice.
not exactly a pike stretch because you're in a step position, and the front leg is completely extended.
Extended, yeah.
Extended. So you're basically only stretching one leg and you're bouncing into it. So you start slow, and as you progress after 10 or 20 repetitions, you will feel your leg is nice and warm and you got some range. So I tried a variety of these approaches. I put up papers in the gym. I was like, this is our month's warm-up. Just do all of these and then you're good to go. So I tried to have structured classes where I do a fixed warm-up routine and then I show a move or two, or I'll just present the warm-up here. This is it. If you don't know what a certain exercise is, just come and ask. Do that. Then you can just train freely. And everything in between, kind of.
So a couple of points on that, which I find quite interesting. So ballistic stretching is something that I think is quite interesting. I know that a lot of, for example, like Shaolin monks, they love their ballistic stretching. Like, they're doing head to toe, this sort of thing, quite aggressively. But it's interesting to me that throughout all of my kind of PE experience when I was younger at school, ballistic stretching was always we were always told that we should never ever ballistic stretch, otherwise we're going to overstretch or damage something. So what are your thoughts on ballistic stretching then? I mean, obviously, you said that you do these ostrich style stretches for kids. Do you think there's any danger to them, or do you think that it's something that's just worth doing?
It depends. So, I mean, first of all, what we've been told as kids is also don't squat lower than 90 degrees, right?
Yeah.
Don't move your knees over your toes, or don't lift heavy weights. It's really bad for you. When it turns out lifting heavy weights with the proper technique and giving the body time to adjust to the load and train for a while is the best thing you can do. Like, I saw a post by, I think, Dr. Sam Spinelli on Instagram recently, where he literally called lifting the only fountain of youth that we found so far. So that's that. And then obviously you can destroy yourself if you go too hard on a thing, but you can also destroy yourself in parkour. Like if your body is not prepared and you take heavy drops every day, you'll destroy yourself. But if you practice proper technique and take your time, then you'll probably be safe. And so the same goes for ballistic stretching. It's definitely a valid method. If you heard of Emmett Lewis, for example, the splits wizard, he uses it all the time. Plenty of videos on YouTube on that. So I'd say listen to your body, and that's what I try to teach as well. So figure out what your body actually needs and try to apply the right dosage, because I don't know what's the right dosage for you. I can just give you the tool and tell you to try to listen and be careful, and then, well, it's up to you.
Yeah. Nice. I also wanted to pick out what you said about having kind of these sheets with different warm-ups on them. That's a really nice idea. Do you do that I guess that saves a lot of time as well if the students coming in, instead of you having to tell them all about what to do for the warm-up, they can just read it. Is that for kind of older students then?
Well, the classes are completely mixed. The youngest ones would be 8, I think, and sometimes you'll have a age from 8 to 16 in some classes. Some classes are almost only older kids, like 14 to 16 or something, but it's very rare for students to be older than that. I teach one class where the students would be like 18, but no, it's not only for older students.
And do you find it's helpful then to have those in place? Does it save you time as a coach essentially?
Does it save time? I'm not sure, to be honest. I haven't really come to final answers on these. That's just trying out stuff, really. So
Yeah.
about saving time, I mean, you're doing the class anyways, so that is already your time, and then you need to figure out what you want to do with it. Maybe for a period of time it's good to focus on conditioning for a while, and discipline and solid structure, and then on another day or for another period of time it might be good to just approach it kind of loosely.
Cool. And going back to the warm-ups then, what do you think makes a bad warm-up? What would you say that coaches shouldn't do for their warm-ups?
It depends. We talked last night about the hand or the wrist thing, which is a good principle to know, like moving every joint through the available range of motion is good for warming up. It's also good for when you're not warming up, you just want to like maybe limber up in the morning or something. It's perfect. Now I was almost going in another direction. Hold on. But you don't want to waste your time, essentially. Like I was saying, when you only have a 1 hour class, you don't want to spend 10 minutes of that circling every joint without any load on the joint, because you're not doing anything. You're just, well, maybe it feels like you're doing something, but yeah. Then it also depends on the age group. If you have a group of 8-year-olds, they literally do not need to move their joints like that. They do it anyways. Or they come to the class already warmed up, basically. So you want to make sure those kids don't go too hard and don't hurt themselves. So you want to make them stronger. And this doesn't make them stronger. But maybe squatting down, spending some time in a squatting position and playing with wrists against the floor and just figuring out which way you can go. And is there blockage somewhere? Does it hurt? Why does it hurt? And just play around and see where you can go from there. Then you get some reps in. See, you can do this from the floor, put some more weight on your hands and try to push up. Oh, it gets harder. And you can do that with any joint, really. Then you just figure out what's the most efficient thing to do. Then you get the idea, maybe it's not the most efficient thing to do, or maybe I need to try something else, because it's always good to do other stuff after you've been doing a certain kind of stuff for a while. So you switch it up. There's no blueprint, really.
Yeah, I definitely get the impression that your classes are quite adapted to suit the needs and kind of the wants of the students, and that you don't really you're not hugely prepared for your classes, if that makes sense. You kind of take on board what's what needs to be done and what could be improved and things, and that's kind of how you. Would I be right in saying that?
I definitely do not prepare my classes. Yeah. So like, oh, I'm at the gym. Class is starting right now. Okay, folks, what are we gonna do? So yeah, it's always really dynamic. And also about the content of the class. There is some. It feels recently, but I think it wasn't recently because lockdown and stuff. I just remembered wall spins, for example. So I made them do a warm-up routine, and then train for 5 or 10 minutes, like get into the groove of things, and then hey folks, come here. This is a wall spin. This is how you learn a wall spin. Find out at which level you are and try. So I give like guidelines and then just let them play with it.
Yeah. That's nice. So do you find that, I mean, you've been coaching for a long time now. Is that an approach that suits you best now? Or is it something that you've done from the beginning?
Are we still talking about warm-ups or classes in general?
Yeah, so I guess what I'm asking is, you have quite a spontaneous kind of style of coaching.
Yeah.
Have you always had that approach, or is that something that you find to be best for you right now?
I think I always had that approach because I'm, to be honest, a really lazy person. But when you're teaching like the regular beginner workshop at like a 1 day or a couple of hours workshop at a school or something, you'll always be doing the same stuff. So I think that's where I learned what stuff is actually needed for people who are starting. So that's when you figure out, okay, people need to be able to land properly. Okay, it doesn't really it doesn't really matter what group I'm teaching, if it's academics or a special education kind of class. You'll always have people taking the biggest drops they find, for example. And you always, if you're in a gym, you'll always have that one guy who just sprints at the wall box and throws it over. So I kind of came up with ways to hinder that. Is that the right word? To make people not do that. So I always let people, in a beginner workshop, I let them take off their shoes. Because when you have padded shoes like most people have, they take big drops. Oh, that felt nice. Let's do it again. So they do it all over again, and you just cringe by watching because you see their backs and their knees and when you're barefoot, you'll do that exactly one time. You'll take one big drop, and it's gonna hurt. So yeah. By the way, I also kick over wall boxes regularly.
Really?
Yeah. But don't tell the people who own them.
I see.
It's because they give this illusion of safety. So it's nice and padded on the top, and it's wood and all that. And the concrete wall is kind of intimidating from the go. So you don't want people to assume that they're safe just because they're in a gym and there's some padding. So I kicked the thing over.
Nice.
Just to make a point.
Yeah. I like that.
Beginner workshops. So you'll have to implement landings. It doesn't make sense to focus too much on a perfect technique like the most sophisticated tracer would have. But you want them to have guidelines. So if you're landing and you're like bending over or bowing, basically, then either the jump is too big or your lower back is too weak or something. So you can't have that. If your landing looks like that, stop. You need to go back. You need to go smaller jumps and like focus on that particular thing. If your knees slam together in a landing, again, your legs are too weak, jump is too big, go back and focus on that. Do it silently, and then, I don't know, you tell people to land on their toes, and they land with their heels like that. This is also not what you want. You want them, like, to just, land nicely, not on their toes, because then you'll fall over, actually. So I stopped doing elaborate landing workshops. I just tell people to bounce, like just bounce on their feet and watch their heel position. And because it's perfect technique intuitively, basically. So where your heel is like a centimeter or two above the floor and just bouncing, that's what you want. You don't want elevated heel, you don't want your heel slamming to the ground, you just want this nice bounce. So you figure out easy triggers that don't take a lot of time to imply. And then you go from there.
I like that idea. And how do you figure out what is best to teach in your classes? Is it something that you've thought through? As in, do you think, right, these are the main principles and I want to try and teach these? Or is it something that's changing as you train more yourself? And so how do you know what is best to teach?
Well, I would say there's two aspects to this. First, you can always tell what most individuals in a group are lacking, which would, I think, always be the same thing, because it's strength and flexibility, mostly. So I struggle with this a lot, because I don't want to drill people. I don't want to be a drill instructor kind of guy. But I'm sure that you need to make people do their pull-ups. You need to make them do their push-ups so they can eventually have a climb up. If someone is coming to a parkour class for 1 year and not even able to pull themselves up on a wall, then there's definitely something missing. So I try to make all of the kids, because it's mostly kids, do these drills. I tell them, okay, if you want to have a climb up, you need to do eccentrics. And I explain to them what an eccentric is. You go from support to hanging as low as you can. You do some pulling, you do some pushing, and eventually you have it. I tell them how I struggled, like for my first year or something, hanging on the edge of walls and be like, oh my god, I was so shit.
Me too.
So that's one thing. So, but I also tell them, like, I give the tools, but I don't force everyone to use them, which is also, I haven't found the perfect routine for this yet, because I said yesterday, there's always these kids that don't actually want to be there. Like, maybe their parents just drop them off, or they know they kind of want to do it, but they don't want to put in the hard work. Then you could have a completely different conversation about why that is, why people don't want something but don't want to work for it, and then you'll get to trauma or all of these psychological things. But so the fact I'm struggling with is I want everyone to get good in my classes, but I also know that it's good for the people who don't want to put in the work to come to the classes and just hang out and watch other people do it. So I don't force them. I tell them they need to figure out what they want, and if they know what they want, I'll tell them how to get it. and then so I can focus on the students that already know what they want. So what always happens in my classes is kind of a structured chaos kind of thing. So I try to create jams, or I noticed at one point in my coaching that I'm creating jams, which is, well, I'm sure every practitioner kind of would be struggling with that, like you maybe, coming to a class and having a structure, and this is not really what we do in parkour. When we go training, I don't know, it's kind of bottom up kind of process, a little bit intuitively, a little bit expectations or goals that you set, and so it kind of merges together, and your own practice emerges out of it, and you want every student to kind of have that as well. So if you manage to create a jam kind of thing with giving guidelines, like jumping to a wall, just because you'll always have, we talked about arm jumps last night, you'll always have students that have never interacted with the wall whatsoever, and you'll have those that can already do arm jumps, for example. So how can you cater to both? Well, you start as easy as it can be with interacting with the wall. You kick the wall, you jump to the wall, you bounce off, you learn how to fall to your back, you learn how to fall on your feet. And if you're already able to do that, great. Do it 3 times, then go do some arm jumps. And then, I don't know, if you found an arm jump, figure out one movement that you can do before you do the arm jump, and one movement that you can do after it, and boom, you got a run. Now practice that, and then put in some more. That's a run. That's great. Keep doing. Keep going. So when you create a jam, you're able to give individual challenges like that. You'll see someone doing a random jump. Doesn't really matter what it is right now. And then you can like actually help and give technique tips and all that.
Cool. Yeah, I guess the way we train in jams is it is very explorative, isn't it? We go to a place, we're not quite sure what to expect.
Yeah.
We attempt challenges, we see challenges, we gain excitement from each other's ideas. We're not being prescribed a list of things to do or a list of things to achieve. I guess it is very much up to us. I feel like for me, this is where I take my older students, but I do find it harder with younger students. Just simply because of experience and awareness and things. I think there is a kind of, for me, a tipping point with people that do parkour, and then they realise, well, this is what training is. Do you see what I mean? Like, I can do this by myself now. I can apply things that I've learned within these classes and take them by myself now.
Yeah.
And that kind of tipping point is something I've talked about before, and that for me is such a important aim for a coach to get their students to, or the ones that want to get there, because then it becomes self-actualizing. The student understands that they have to put in their own work, they have to go out and find their own spots, they have to connect to people by themselves in order to learn from this thing. So I really like your idea of kind of creating jams as sessions, to I guess develop this atmosphere and develop this mindset of how we actually train and what you will do eventually in parkour if you go outside and meet people, and so it's really nice. Oh, where have we gone?
Connection died again.
I'll be back. Yeah, it's okay. That's all right. Did you hear most of that?
I missed the end of it, but yeah, creating jams and exploring, talking to people, interacting, that kind of thing. And it's also something I see happening. Well, obviously not with each individual in a class made of 20 individuals. in a group, you'll have, I don't know, some of these, maybe 10 or more, sometimes less, sometimes no one, just slacking. And then you'll have others who find the perfect training partner for them. So you'll have pairs of 2, for example. I taught one class, 2 8-year-olds just going through the parkour gym together and doing challenges. Awesome. Sometimes you'll have little groups. Sometimes you'll have an individual trying something non-specific, and then you could go like, see that guy over there? He's trying something very similar. I think if you'd be able to do that what you're trying right now is easier. So you're trying to you make them train together and do that kind of stuff. Yeah. A thought I just had for creating these sessions is like one of the biggest mistakes I would say a coach can make is to focus too much on a specific technique. Like say it's a beginner workshop and you're introducing basic waltz, and you know that repetition is the best teacher, right? So you're introducing a speed step because it's one of the easiest waltz, and some will be able to do it right away, and some need to like first get in contact with whatever obstacle you have. Maybe it's a wall box, maybe it's a wall, maybe it's a rail. So you make everyone do it super slow, but you don't focus too much on how it looks when a super experienced guy does it. You just give the guidelines. See, you jump, or maybe you don't even jump. You just put one foot up, put the other hand up. So left foot, right hand, right foot, left hand. You go through, and you just do that until it feels comfortable. When it feels comfortable, go faster, or try to get more airtime. Yeah. So give more room for play and making mistakes, because making mistakes makes you better. Yeah, and help people to get in as much reps as they can.
Yeah. And on that note, what other common mistakes do you see in coaches?
Well, that would be exactly it. Aside from safety fails, maybe, which is another topic, is focusing too much on specific on like the aesthetics of a move, maybe, or focusing or zooming in too much on one particular aspect of a movement. So, say you're trying to teach a Catpass. Do we need to explain what a Catpass is for people who don't know?
Go on then. Why not?
Okay, a movement where you use both your hands and you jump, like kind of dive onto something. Use both hands to push yourself off and yeah, whatever. So here the biggest mistake would be to try to get someone who has never done any vault in their life, or maybe let's speak in reps. 10 reps speed step and 10 or 20 lazies, maybe something like that, and then you try to teach them a Catpass, and they haven't really drilled their precisions, so they don't know how to jump, they don't know how to push, they're not familiar with the obstacle, all of that. And then you try to get them to do a Catpass, and you forget that until you're actually able to do what we call a Catpass over like a certain obstacle, you have movements like getting on top of the obstacle, or getting down. Like you can Catpass down, for example, which is easier than Catpassing up, especially if you're doing it sideways, because you don't have to cross the scary edge, and there's no danger of clipping your knees or something. So you can spend a lot of time on your hands and doing movements that already feel good. And just doing that will eventually teach you a Catpass. It won't teach it to you in 5 minutes. It might take a session, it might take a week, it might take a month. But in my opinion, that is the most safe and forgot a word. No, longevity. Orientated,
longevity,
kind of. So sustainable is the word.
Sustainable, yes.
Think of flips. You can throw people through backflips all day, and they won't ever do a backflip on their own because it's too scary and they can't actually do it. But if you teach them to not fall on their head, like do half a backflip and land on your shoulder or save yourself, they won't be afraid anymore, and then eventually you can use the help 1 or 2 times, and they'll have a backflip forever. And when that moment comes, I'm sure it happens with everyone, you can already do a backflip, you're doing a backflip and you fall on your head. Happened to me twice. I had to learn how to backflip, I think 3 times because I fell to my head twice. When that happens, you'll be safe. You won't hurt yourself. You're able to orientate yourself and save yourself. Might take longer, might not be as satisfying as doing a backflip in your first session, but yeah.
It touches on what I've been thinking about a lot in parkour and parkour coaching, this idea that parkour is a lot about persuasion. It's a lot about persuading yourself that you can do something well and safely. And that makes complete sense what you say there. You know, if you're only spotting someone with flips and things, then you are externally providing that kind of persuasion, whereas it has to be internal eventually.
Yeah.
You have to understand that, oh well, it's not just a leap of faith. It is something that I understand how to deal with if it goes wrong. I really like that idea. I think that's a really good point for coaches to think about. What tools can their... Oh,
I'm sorry.
This is a very exciting episode. You're just kind of coming in and out. Yeah, I think it's a really important idea for coaches to think about is what tools can you provide the students to allow them to move confidently and try things confidently. Yeah. It shouldn't just be about what you can comfort them with. They have to find that comfort for themselves in their own strength and their own ability. I like that idea a lot.
Exactly. So you could talk about holiday camps, for example, where you're teaching a group of kids for a week and all day, every day for 5 days or something. Obviously, you're going to teach the movements that have names and this is that, and this is how it goes, this is how it works. But like on the first day, I'll do the same as in the first hour or so of a beginner workshop. I won't teach any movement that can be named. It's more of an approach of what positions can you get people to get into, and what movements can they do that have the most effect on their movement capability and on their confidence. So think, first let's not take a walled box, but just the floor. You can do a whole workshop just using groundwork. Especially with kids, make them take their shoes off, but leave the socks on this time, and let them slide, for example. Sliding, super fun, and then you teach them how to fall. This is how you fall without hurting yourself. You need to kind of roll, you need to be kind of soft. Try it from a squatting position first, so you don't fall from too high up, and get comfortable with that. Do it in every direction, and then you can start sprinting or running, slide, and just make yourself fall. and just do stunts like that for a while.
Nice.
So that's the basics for falling, basically. Then you do the same with landing and rolling. We talked about rolls last night, where when you can sit and lie down from a sitting position, you can already roll, and you can also already fall. So you just do that. You lie down, put out an arm, throw your legs over your arm, you have a backward roll. You rewind it, play it backwards, you have a forward roll. And then you just roll on the floor, you do sausage rolls or barrel rolls or whatever. And then you'll have people understand the concept of rolling. You won't have to waste time teaching them one specific roll, because there are endless specific rolls. And obviously later on there'll be dive roll challenges or rolling on a beam or I don't know. But first you want people to be able to roll. And then you go to the wall boxes, because it's a regular like gym kind of thing. I won't start with speed steps or speed walls or lazies. I'll make them, roll on the wall boxes. Like first, like butt rolls, the reverse kind of roll. You can do that just on your back. Like first you do it on your butt, then you roll to your back, and then you'll almost have a touchdown race kind of movement, where you go over your shoulder and learn to spot the floor and put your hand down. So you already have backwards overhead movements implemented. Yeah, just do that. You can go as sideways as you want. We're not gymnasts. We do not care how sideways you go. You can always go straight up. But when you're not able to go like straight over your head, you go sideways. There's the floor. You save yourself. Use both hands. Then you almost have a back handspring if you let yourself fall backwards. You can do it forward, and then you have walkovers and cartwheels and dive rolls and all of that. So it takes half an hour, all of that, like groundwork and wall box work that I described, and you'll have a group of people that you can almost trust to train on their own, because they kind of know their way with their body.
So as in teaching them how to fall and orientate themselves actually then gives the coach more trust in them being able to be more independent.
Exactly. And then you won't have to be afraid of the rest of the group when you focus on one particular student to teach them something specific, because they probably won't die as soon as you turn around.
Yeah, that's what we want.
That's what we want.
And so I guess you mentioned at the start that you've had you teach at a parkour gym.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the amount of equipment has a large part to play in students being able to kind of train for themselves? Like, as in, do you sometimes coach with less equipment? Do you feel like the amount of equipment is important?
Interesting question. Well, I'm sure you know the effect an amazing spot can have on a practitioner, where there's too much opportunities or too much possibility, so you get overwhelmed and you don't know what to start with. So too much equipment can definitely hinder. I'm not sure what hinder people doing stuff. Same as if you have a gym, like ours is a fixed setup. It doesn't really change, except we have some boxes we can move around, like nice wooden boxes without padding. But if you have a gym where you can cater the setup to every individual, you'll take something away. As in parkour, movements develop according to the environment and not the environment according to the movements you want to do. well, obviously there is benefit in, like, I don't know, you want to do a lâcher or a running jump. There's benefit in being able to change the distance, but there is also a huge benefit to be found in failing a jump that is too big for you, for as long as you need to until you get it. But talking about the equipment thing, for a while I started my classes with we have these rails that you can move around with boxes at the end, kind of heavy, but perfect for foot placement and precision work. So I made them, well, I built a little setup from boxes and those rails that are like shin high maybe, and made them balance barefoot and do little prees barefoot, and told them to get 50 prees in on that setup before they can go to the big one. So it definitely helps to cut down possibilities. Same as having only one rail or one wall to train on will bring out more creative movements. And it's really fortunate I'm recording my audio here, because with the connection breaking down so often.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, as long as you got the audio, it's all good. You were just saying about having like one wall or something.
Yeah, having only one rail or one wall will bring out more creative movements than having an amazing setup that caters to, I don't know, everything you think you want.
Yeah, we had a really nice session recently. We only had 2 students because there was not many people because of coronavirus and stuff. And they're 2 brothers, and they're twins. So they have a very kind of similar ability, very similar mindset on things. And we put out some different structures, some different pieces of equipment, and we were trying to teach creativity and try and explore these big pieces of equipment. And it was going okay, but then, you know, me and my assistant coach showed some different things you could do, and obviously some of them were too hard for the young lads who were with us in the session. So then we decided to cut it all down, and we took one. Sometimes we use like weight plates as things to jump across, because they're really heavy. They're nice. They're not going to move, so they make really good things to jump on. And we just took one 20 kg weight plate, put it on the floor, and then we just said, okay, we're just going to use this now. I want you to try and move and interact with this weight plate as much as you can, and in as many different ways as you can. And it was just awesome what they came up with. It was really surprising, and it was giving us ideas as well. Like, we were all feeding off each other's ideas, and it was kind of like that kind of jam atmosphere. It was really, really nice, and we were literally just using this one plate, and, you know, we were doing weird things kind of with our hands. We were hopping onto it, we were hopping off it, we were trying, you know, rolling and then kind of landing our feet on it, and just strange things like that. And it was from there we then went back to the bigger structures, and suddenly they were like, oh wow, there's now that we have more after having so much less, there's like, they could start to see more ways of creating.
Yeah,
and,
awesome.
It was a really nice session. It was really good.
Sounds like one of these super fun sessions. I remember having one session like that, not with a weight plate, but one of these, you know, the gymnastic mushroom looking kind of things,
yeah,
where they do flares and stuff. Just put one of these in the middle of the room, and then had I think a judo, a martial arts kind of mattress, like thin and hard to jump to, and we did all kind of tic-tac, running jump variations, and it was awesome. A couple of years ago with a good friend. Yeah,
nice.
Sometimes I still think about it.
That's the thing, though. I find when you have a really good coaching session, it can be just as fulfilling and just as memorable as the good, training sessions you have, because seeing people progress and seeing people enjoy that kind of learning that we kind of take for granted now. We've been training for so long that sometimes it's not always easy to remember that we were at that very primitive stage at one point, like just trying things out and seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, being scared of simple things and overcoming them. And there can be a lot of some great moments there.
Yeah, especially like I just thought that when you've been training for say 10 years, the idea of what you want to do gets stronger and stronger and more specific. So it's definitely beneficial to like break yourself out of this need for something like specific. So to get back to the stage of just exploring and having no idea what you're doing, and just seeing what can come out. Yeah, that's also where movement training is so powerful for learning and health in general. Do you know the term neurogenesis?
Not really. No, I understand neuro and genesis, but explain to me. Yeah, what is it?
It's basically the process of your brain forming new neurons. So it's basically the amount of neurons you have says something about the plasticity of your brain, maybe. Not that I know anything or a lot about brains. It's just something I heard a very smart person talk about in an interview. But when I was at school, we were told that once you grow up, once you're getting older, your brain won't be producing new neurons anymore, like gray matter and all that. So you need to watch out, save what you have and stuff. But it turns out that in the process of learning something new, like at the very beginning, the phase, you get a new toy or a new movement, and from the point where you have no idea what you're doing, through the process of almost feeling bodily, physically disabled because you just can't figure it out, until you're finally getting comfortable with it, but still not having mastery. This is the time frame that is best for neurogenesis, which creates plasticity in the brain and enables you to learn more. So the effect of learning is biggest at the beginning of learning something new. That's I think you're familiar with Ido Portal. So to quote him, I give you a toy, and once you get comfortable, I take it away. That's his approach, kind of. So yeah.
Yeah, and something we touched on last night as well is this idea between, it's something that I'm thinking about more and more, what the relationship is between progression and kind of foundation. So in a session, should the aim to be to squeeze as much progression out of a person as possible, or should sessions be more about building foundations for kind of more sustainable long-term movement training? And that's something I've been thinking about quite a bit, because I'd say my coaching tends to lean more towards foundations. I obviously love it when kids progress, and that's always going to be good to see. But at the same time, I kind of think more on the long game of like, well, these things do take a while, and if I expect them to get it within one session, that might not necessarily be a good thing. So I wanted to kind of ask you your thoughts on those things. I know we touched on it a bit last night.
I'd say the short answer is yes, or it depends. So I reckon you could develop a sense for like when you're watching someone trying a challenge, and you're probably familiar with this feeling. You're standing next to them and you're like, you can do this. Like, all you need to do is this or that. So that's definitely a thing. But at the same time, I think progression is kind of very well bottom up again and very individual. So there's a few aspects to this. Like, say you have a student who comes to class once a week and doesn't really train outside of this class. Then you can't expect too much progress to be made when you only train once a week, and maybe don't even think about what that progress could look like outside of class. So how much can you expect from someone like that? Or opposite to someone who's super passionate, who's nerding hard into movement or parkour and thinking about it 24/7, just going out alone, and watching tutorials or watching videos. I'm very sorry about this. Is it actually my connection or is it yours?
I'm pretty sure it's yours because my laptop is literally over the Wi-Fi router. It's literally like as close as it can be.
Okay.
but don't worry, man.
I was hoping I could blame it on you. So what I was saying is, I was just talking about how it looks like when someone is nerding hard into parkour and watching videos and tutorials and all that stuff. So someone like that will progress in a completely different way than someone who is treating it like going to a regular sports club and training once or twice a week and then going home and doing something entirely different and like segregated even from that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's probably a fine line you can walk with every individual you teach. There are parameters you can look at if someone isn't strong enough for the jumps they're doing, for example. So you could say, listen, you need more strength. The jumps you're doing, they're too big. You need to go back. And if you're doing that, then you also need to teach people to leave their ego at the door, because it's not nice to be told that you're too weak or something. So that's that. Or if someone might be really motivated or passionate about swinging, like I'm one of these people. And I probably myself neglected shoulder and elbow work for a while. So I've been having elbow, like golfer's elbow, pain on the inside of your elbow for a couple of years. It's because when we had when the gym was new, I was swinging a couple of days a week. Started to develop elbow pain and said to myself, swinging is kind of decompressing. I can't be swinging. I'll just keep doing that. So it became chronic. So obviously you need to check yourself for when you're slacking off or cutting yourself some slack or being stupid. And you also need to tell your students when you think they're doing that. Obviously, you don't have the whole picture. But yeah. So it's probably a fluctuation between progress that can be made and basics that need to be like given. And yeah, then you could also define progress. What does it mean to progress? Like to quote Flynn, make hard things easy. So if your only goal is to do only new jumps or new movements in a session, then you will be missing out on getting reps in and making it easy what you're doing. You won't be able to do runs and use what you're training when you're always always satisfied after breaking a jump once.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will move on to the last part, I think, which is finishing a class.
Sure.
How something that's not really talked about, actually, I don't find. How do you think that coaches should finish a class? How do you finish classes?
Well, the idea of how I think classes should be finished is not how I finish my classes. So not sure how much authority I have to talk about that. Reason I do not finish classes how I think they should be finished is there's just not enough time. So imagine you're teaching a couple of classes in a row, and while you're finishing one class, the students for the next class are already coming in.
Yeah.
And then it's also just a 1.5 hour class. So you want people or kids to have as much fun and as much opportunity to train as they can get. So I don't want to cut off class like 15 minutes before it ends and just to talk about some stuff or cool them down or even meditate or do some mindfulness training, which would be what I recommend. Hold on, I think I might have to switch. Yeah. There's people coming in. Noise to be made. Hold on. Switching location real quick. Let's move here. Should be fine. All right. I'll just keep the mic in my hand, I think. So I think a holistic approach to movement and training needs to include aspects like mindfulness and reflection and training your mind as well as your body, keeping your attention in check and all of that, which I hardly use. I use it in holiday camps when imagine you have there's a lunch break and you spend the whole morning, like maybe 2 or 3 hours training and being in the gym, and all the kids are like super hyped and woo, and now you want to get these kids to kind of behave and get their food without spilling stuff and without cutting in line, and so you need a certain amount of order, and for this it really helps to get like 10 minutes of some meditation in. So make them sit down and focus on their breathing for a while, and try to get their attention towards like see what happens when you actually focus on your breathing. See how you can actually control your heart rate, for example. Or you could do things like imagine your hand getting warm. Imagine sending energy into your hand, and then the hand actually gets warm, and kids will be like, "Whoa, what?" So using tools like that is definitely helpful if you need to like get the energy level of the whole group down a little. But I don't use it in regular classes again because there's not enough time. Because I think for these kids, training and playing and stuff is more important than like cooling down and stuff. If they're older, I'll try to get some stretching and strength in. But from experience, the older people, like there's one adult class, and they'll do the cool down and taking it slow thing on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, something I do with my kids' classes is do 1 minute of lying on the floor. I just say, everyone lie down, lie on the floor, and your challenge is to not speak and close your eyes for 1 minute. That's your challenge. So I kind of oh, he's gone again. Is he back?
Yeah.
Are you there? Are you there?
Sorry?
Are you with us?
I'm here, yeah.
Excellent.
So
I was just saying that, yeah, I basically frame it to the children that they have 1 minute to not speak and close their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And by framing it as a challenge, it helps them concentrate, and it's nice to have that bit of kind of mindfulness and just. Or also, one thing I do as well is say, okay, close your eyes for a minute, and you've got to try and remember everything that we did in this class. So think back right to the start and think through all the way. Try and think of as many things, and then I ask them, how many things did you think about? And they go, oh, I remember we did this. I remember. And just trying to promote that kind of like reflection of what they do, and just because sometimes you'll talk to kids and you'll say, you know, did you enjoy this term? Did you enjoy this block of sessions? What did we do? And they'll go, don't know what we did, and they don't remember too well. So
Yeah.
I think that trying to promote some sort of reflection and memorizing is a good thing, and I agree with you about the having some time, if you have time, some time to integrate that.
It also depends like, on what kind of group you're teaching. Like for me, there would be days where I teach like three classes in a row with 20 kids each, and then you have 10 of those are kind of hyperactive and running all over the place, and a couple are just training, doing their own thing, and then we have a skateboarding gym right next to our gym without a proper wall. So if there's one skateboarder, it will be super loud. So that's a stress factor. And then there's people for the next class coming in. So yeah, it's kind of hard to implement these mindfulness sessions. But yeah, super helpful. Should be in every toolkit. And there's a lot there. Like we could lead another conversation about what mindfulness tools you could use, like, or then it's something like progressive muscle relaxation, for example, which is super powerful. Or like visuals. How do you call them in English? We call them like dream journeys, where you just tell them like you lie down, close your eyes, focus on your breathing for a while, and then you tell a story. You're walking over a field of grass, and it feels like that, and you look up and the sky looks like that. And that's also pretty powerful. And then visualization for movement and expectations and all of that.
Good stuff. Well, we'll finish it there. We've kind of come to our conclusion of how classes run. I guess there's some really interesting stuff you've put in there, so thank you so much. I guess I want to leave this last space for you to, is there any recommendations you have for people that inspire you, or books that are good for coaching, or books that are good for just generally, just for movement practitioners and people interested and curious about how the body works? This is your space to plug, really. So
another whole conversation. So one thing I always want to say is, I think that as a parkour or movement coach, we are really in a special position of teaching people, like not even teaching, but giving something back that is being lost, which is finding pleasure in completing challenges, or even not completing challenges, like being happy with failing as long as you need to, and pleasure in being able to move and being able to do stuff, like in a general thing. That's why parkour is so powerful, because the mental aspect is so central. So breaking a jump that seemed impossible half an hour ago, or that almost made you shit your pants when you started thinking about it, and then you work through it and eventually you're able to do it. I can't think of anything that's more empowering than these moments. And what this practice does is really teach you about your place in the world and how you can have an impact on yourself and on others just by interacting and doing things and having the right attitude. So yeah, in the coach certifications I do, is I always say, half jokingly, we have one of the most important jobs in the world. But for that you need to know a lot of stuff, which isn't necessarily about the body or training in general. It's more, you need to learn how to think and how to approach stuff. And you need to embody what you're doing. Like you can't teach someone to enjoy moving if you don't enjoy moving. So you need to embody that, and you also need the ability to be happy for someone when they break a challenge, for example. Like, yeah, sick! Yeah, do it again! And 5 more times. And then do that. You're great! Keep going. So, yeah. That's that. And about recommendations, I found that when I was thinking about this podcast last night, the stuff I'm reading or listening to and all that, it almost never has to do anything with coaching. It's more like, but it definitely impacts how I coach. So I would say go by intuition maybe. Sure, there's good stuff you can check out. I'm reading Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind at the moment. Been hearing about the book for years, and eventually I got it. Or Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Great book, blew me away. Knew about that for a while, finally got it, and oh my god, there's so much in there. Especially about it's a book about quality. So you could have a discussion about it seems that for some practitioners in parkour, and never develop a sense for what's good and what's bad. So you could get the idea that the fact, like the absence of norms, is mistaken for the absence of a value system, or certain techniques or movements or approaches are better or worse. So it seems that some people never get to the point where they reflect their own technique and what they're doing. So they get hurt, or they just never progress. So that's that. I would recommend Flynn's posts. A lot of very, very meta stuff about many a thing. And let me just check my shelf real quick. Well, yeah, this one. This is one of the most important books I've read this year. Finite and Infinite Games, by James P. Cars. Yeah, I recommend it to everyone I meet, basically. It's obscure, that's for sure. It's not about games, except it's all about games, but it's not about actual games. Like, it's not.
Okay.
It's not a manual for games, specific,
okay.
But it's more looking at life and society and societal structures and mechanisms and all of that in a game kind of perspective. So culture would be an infinite game because it's ever evolving and it doesn't stop, even if our perception of it is static. The premise of it's always been that way. No, it's not. It's always been changing. So yeah, and parkour is definite part of the infinite game. Oh no, I spoiled the book. There's only one infinite game.
Nice. Thanks for those. Yeah, I saw that you posted those recommendations, and my sisters were asking me, what do you want for Christmas? And I put the Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance as one of the books. I hope
nice.
That'll be a Christmas gift coming my way, so I can delve into that.
Look forward.
For that. Just on my end, if you roll over to the next episode, number 14, I had a really, really good chat with the CEO of Parkour Generations, Dan Edwards, who's one of the oldest kind of standing members of the coaching community worldwide. We had a really good conversation. So if you want to check that out, you can do. Also, I turned 27 recently and released a new video for this year. So I don't often kind of plug my videos, but for this one, if you want to watch it, then it'll be in the description in YouTube below, or the description above for Spotify, and just reflects a lot of the movement that I've been doing over this year, and some thoughts kind of buried in there as well. So but thank you, Andy. That was great. There's a lot of really
Pleasure.
nice specific things that I wanted to get out of you, and I did. So I'm really happy that you felt that you shared all that. That was great, man. And hopefully, I say this on every single one, but it'd be great to train with you, man. It'd be great to see you coaching. It'd be great to come to Germany again. I went to Munich in 2016. I had an awesome time. Had such a great time.
Nice.
So maybe I'll be on the way there again.
Yeah, consider this an invitation. I live in a good place, next to nature, pretty close to a gym, pretty good spots, a lot to explore. My door is always open for national and international guests. I might be able to get to England at one point again, although I really don't like London. But I haven't explored any of outside of London, really.
There's a lot to explore, man. The north is
sure.
is massively under-visited where I live. People don't come to the north, but there's some good stuff. There's some good stuff. And for people listening, I've almost forgot to say, all the links for Andy and his organizations I can put in the description as well. So if you're interested in following him, then you can do that. But from me, thank you so much, Andy, and thank you everyone for listening.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure. Really nice to talk about this stuff. And I'd be happy to come back and talk some more. Is this now the point where I turn my recorder off?
Yeah. Okay. Nice one.